Kirkland's signature raw almonds might be sitting in your pantry right now in one of those giant Costco bags. And Costco's own customer service has confirmed in writing that they're fumigated with a chemical the EPA classifies as a probable human carcinogen. Here's the stranger part. Since 2007, federal law has required almost every almond grown in California to be pasteurized this way, or steamed before it ever reaches a shelf. And the FDA still allows the word raw to stay on the bag either way, no matter which method was used. So today we're walking through 6 almond brands you should walk right past, and 3 that are actually the real thing, including a small family farm that ships genuinely, truly raw almonds straight to your door, no chemical chamber involved. Here's what the government actually requires. Back in 2001 and 2004, a couple of salmonella outbreaks got traced to raw almonds out of California, sickening a few dozen people. Nobody died, but California grows roughly 80% of the world's almonds. So the industry got nervous and asked the USDA to step in, worried about what a bigger outbreak could do to an entire export market. In 2007, the USDA agreed and passed what's known as the almond rule. Every almond grown in California has to be pasteurized before it reaches you, either with steam or with a fumigant called propylene oxide or PPO, with no exceptions for organic growers, small farms, or anyone else selling through a regular retail channel. Here's the real kicker. The FDA looked at this and decided pasteurization doesn't change an almond's essential characteristics, which means a fumigated almond can still legally wear the word raw on the front of the bag. There's no requirement to tell you which method was used or to tell you at all. Steam pasteurization runs a company more than $2 million a year at scale, since it requires dedicated equipment, careful temperature control, and extra drying time afterward. PPO fumigation runs a fraction of that, closer to $500,000 a year for the same volume, which is exactly why most conventional almond processors choose it over the gentler option. Here's the thing, once you know raw doesn't legally mean unpasteurized, you start wondering what's actually happened to the almond in your hand before it ever got to the store shelf. And later, I'm going to show you a test that takes about 90 seconds to set up and a day or two to give you your answer, and it tells you plainly whether your almond is alive or not. Number 6, Whole Foods 365. This is the store almost everyone trusts to have already done the homework on food quality for them. Here's the thing, a company representative confirmed that all Whole Foods labeled almonds are steam treated, which the company calls the acceptable method compared to gas fumigation. That's a real meaningful choice and credit belongs where it's due. But steam pasteurization is still pasteurization. The almond has still been heated enough to compromise its ability to sprout, and it's still legally allowed to say raw on the bag regardless. At most Whole Foods locations, a package runs around $7.99. What you get is a crisp, mild almond that tastes close to the real thing, because steam treatment is genuinely the gentler of the 2 approved methods. Steam works by blasting the nut's surface with high temperature vapor for a matter of seconds, long enough to knock down bacteria without cooking the almond the way a full roast would. But close to raw and raw are different products being sold under the identical word, in the one grocery chain whose shoppers are most likely to care about the difference and least likely to know it exists. If you've bought this weekly for a year, that's roughly $415 spent at a store built around the promise of unprocessed food on an almond that can't do the one thing a truly raw almond can do, grow. But the next one wraps the same story in an organic seal, as if that changes anything. Number 5, Simple Truth, Kroger's Organic House Brand. The green packaging leans hard on words like organic and natural, which is exactly the kind of language that makes a shopper stop reading the fine print, assuming the harder work has already been done for them. Here's the real kicker. Organic certification has nothing to do with the pasteurization mandate. Organic almonds grown in California are equally required by law to be pasteurized as conventional ones. They tend to be steamed rather than fumigated instead, since PPO is a synthetic substance that would jeopardize the organic seal entirely. The almond itself has still been heated past the point where its living germ reliably survives, regardless of what else is written on the front of the bag. At most Kroger family stores, a package runs around $6.99. What you get is a clean-tasting, pale almond that looks identical to an unpasteurized one on the shelf, because visually, pasteurization leaves almost no trace behind at all. The organic label is doing real work protecting you from pesticide residue, and that's worth something. It's doing absolutely nothing, however, to make this almond any more raw than the conventional bag 2 shelves over. If you bought this weekly, that's roughly $363 a year spent on the reassurance of an organic seal that was never designed to answer the question you actually cared about. Now, the next brand is the one that plays up the word raw harder than anyone else on this list. Number 4, Trader Joe's. Specifically, the Supreme Nonpareil grade, the company's best-selling raw almond and the one whose packaging leans into raw as a selling point more aggressively than most of its competitors. Here's the thing, Trader Joe's has confirmed its almonds are steam treated at temperatures reported between 210 and 215 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to reliably kill the almond's ability to sprout, even though nothing on the front of the bag hints at it. Consumer watchdogs have specifically called out this brand for how hard it markets the word raw on its best-selling grade, given what's actually been done to the nut. At most locations, a package runs around $6.99. What you get is a good-tasting, reasonably priced almond. This brand isn't cutting corners on sourcing, but 210 degrees is well past the temperature that keeps a seed alive, and building an entire marketing identity around a word that stopped being technically true 9 hours into processing is its own kind of shortcut, one built entirely out of language instead of ingredients. If you bought this weekly, that's roughly $363 a year on the almond bag, most aggressively selling you a word its own 9-hour processing schedule already disqualified before it ever reached the shelf. If this is already saving you from a bad shop, do me a favor and hit subscribe. We publish one of these every week, and the next one does something even sneakier. It treats two versions of the same almond two completely different ways. Number 3, Blue Diamond. This is one of the oldest, most recognized names in the entire category, built on more than a century of cooperative farming history and owned collectively by thousands of California almond growers. Here's the real kicker. According to a company representative, Blue Diamond's sliced and slivered almonds are steam pasteurized, but the flagship whole natural almonds, the bag that actually says raw on it, the one people buy specifically for snacking or homemade almond milk, has been treated with PPO gas fumigation. Same grower cooperative, same trusted logo, two different processes depending entirely on which shape the almond is cut into. At most grocery stores, a package runs around $8.49. What you get with the whole natural bag is a firm, mild almond indistinguishable by taste from its steamed sibling on the same shelf, and which is exactly the point. PPO leaves no detectable residue and no flavor signature, so there's nothing on the plate or on the label to tell you which almond in this brand's lineup got the chemical treatment and which one didn't. The only real difference between the two bags is which processing line the almonds happen to travel down before packaging. If you've bought this weekly, that's roughly $441 a year on a brand that treats its most popular, best-selling product with the cheaper, harsher method, while its lower volume sliced and slivered lines get the gentler one. Now the next brand carries the word diamond too, and it's leaning on the identical chemistry. Number 2, Diamond of California. This name sounds like it's describing a place and a standard, the kind of heritage branding that implies old world care and generations of careful hand selection. Here's the real kicker. Company representatives have confirmed this brand's almonds are treated with PPO fumigation as well. In the European Union, propylene oxide isn't approved as a food fumigant at all. It isn't anywhere on the list of chemicals allowed to touch food there. Canada doesn't permit its domestic use either and only tolerates a residue limit on nuts imported from the US, just not here. At most stores, a package runs around $7.99. What you get is again an almond that tastes and looks completely ordinary, because that's the entire nature of this treatment. It's invisible by design. The gap here isn't in what you taste, it's in what two other entire regulatory systems, covering hundreds of millions of people, have decided not to allow anywhere near their food supply, while it remains standard practice here. If you bought this weekly, that's roughly $315 a year on a nut carrying a heritage sound and name, treated with a chemical that two other major food systems in the world won't approve for this exact purpose. And the final brand on this list is the one carrying the biggest bag, the lowest price, and the most nationally trusted name of them all. Number 1, Kirkland Signature, Costco's house brand. This is very possibly the exact bag sitting in your pantry right now, because it's one of the best-selling raw almond products in the entire country, stocked in enormous quantities in nearly every Costco warehouse in America. Here's the real kicker, and this one isn't secondhand. Costco's own member service center has stated directly and in writing that Kirkland Signature almonds are pasteurized using the propylene oxide fumigation process. That's not a rumor pulled from a forum. It's the company's own words, sent in response to a direct customer inquiry. The EPA classifies propylene oxide as a Group B2 probable human carcinogen based on tumors observed at the exposure site in animal studies, and while regulators maintain that residue levels in the finished almond are within an acceptable safety margin, this is still the exact chemical that 2 other major food systems in the world have declined to approve for this use. A typical 3-pound bag, the kind most households buy without a second thought, runs around $13.99. What you get is a huge, affordable bag of almonds that tastes exactly like every other conventional almond on this list, because there's genuinely nothing on your tongue that tells the story. The signature's name implies quality control. This brand absolutely does deliver on in most respects: inventory consistency, food safety audits, competitive pricing. That quality control only doesn't extend to disclosing which of 2 very different processes turn this into the bag in your cart, or telling you the difference matters enough to mention at all. If you bought this weekly for a year, that's roughly $728 spent. The most of any brand on this list, because it's the one families tend to buy in the largest bulk, refilling that giant bag every few weeks without a second thought. On almonds, treat it with the one method this whole video opened with. Here's a test you can set up in about 90 seconds tonight, and it gives you a real answer within a day or 2, no lab equipment required. Take a small handful of whatever almonds are in your kitchen, put them in a jar or bowl, cover them completely with room temperature water, and leave them out somewhere you'll remember to check. A genuinely raw, unpasteurized almond is still a living seed. Within 24 to 48 hours, you'll often see a tiny white tip start to emerge from the pointed end. The beginning of a sprout, the almond's living germ waking up because it's finally wet enough to try. A pasteurized almond, especially when treated with PPO, does nothing. The germ has been sterilized, so there's no life left in there to wake up. It sits in the water without changing, and after a few more days, it starts to smell sour or grow a bit slimy instead of sprouting, because there was never anything alive inside it to begin with. That's the whole test, and it costs nothing but a jar and a little patience. Set this up tonight with whatever bag is already open in your kitchen. What you see sitting in that jar 2 days from now tells you more about your almonds than any label on the shelf ever will, no matter how many times it says the word raw. Now, if you made it this far, here's the payoff. 3 almond brands that are actually what raw is supposed to mean, and one of them ships directly from the family farm that grew it. But the surprise isn't that the real almonds cost more. The surprise is that the entire fix already existed before the 2007 law ever passed. It only isn't the fix most of the industry chose to adopt because the cheaper chemical option was sitting right there on the approved list. Number 3, food to live. This company imports its organic almonds from Italy specifically because Italy isn't subject to the USDA's almond rule at all. That rule only reaches almonds grown inside California. Why they stayed real is almost embarrassingly straightforward. They source from a country where the law never required pasteurization in the first place, so there was never a shortcut built into the process to take. The almonds do get lightly steamed only during the traditional deshelling process at low temperature, not as a bacterial kill step, which is a meaningfully different thing, closer to how a farmer might loosen a shell by hand than to a federally mandated sterilization chamber. The proof is on the label itself. There's organic, imported, unpasteurized, and genuinely able to sprout, unlike anything on the skip list. Customers keep describing the texture as softer and creamier than what they're used to from domestic bags, with a flavor some call greener than the almonds they'd grown used to buying at the grocery store. You'll find Food to Live sold online in bulk, generally in the same price territory as the premium end of the skip list, sometimes less per pound in larger bags. Number 2, Terrasol Superfoods. Dennis Botts and Amy Botts founded this company in 2013 in Fort Worth, Texas, built specifically around sourcing genuinely unpasteurized, minimally processed foods the founders felt the mainstream superfood market wasn't offering with enough honesty about what had actually been done to it. Staying real here means importing organic almonds from Spain, where, like Italy, the pasteurization mandate doesn't apply at all, and paying the added shipping and import costs that comes with sourcing an entire product line from outside the country instead of buying from the California cooperative next door. In 2026, Terrasol was acquired by Laird Superfood for $48 million. Worth disclosing honestly, since ownership changes are exactly the kind of detail this channel doesn't bury, and since a new owner is always worth watching for, whether sourcing practices hold steady. The proof is right in the product name. Unpasteurized, stated plainly. with sproutability as a selling point rather than something hidden or downplayed. Reviewers consistently describe successfully sprouting these almonds at home within a day or two of soaking, something nobody on the skip list can offer no matter how long you wait. You'll find Terrasol at natural grocers and online, generally in the same price range as Blue Diamond or Diamond of California. If this ranking is useful, hit the like button. It really helps the channel cut through the algorithm. Number 1. Cape Hills Orchard, out of Esparto, California. Brian and Gretchen Paddock run this small family farm on an orchard first planted more than 100 years ago, with all 8 members of their family working the property today. Here's the kicker on why they stayed real, and it doubles as the actual answer to the entire mystery this video opened with. The 2001 and 2004 outbreaks were traced to almonds, shaken onto the ground during harvest, where they pick up soil-borne bacteria before ever reaching a processing plant. Cape Hills harvests its almonds onto clean tarps instead of the ground, specifically to avoid that contact in the first place, solving the actual root cause the entire pasteurization law was built around, without needing to pasteurize anything at all. The proof is the exemption itself. Because they sell directly to consumers through their roadside stand and its website extension, federal law allows them to sell genuinely unpasteurized almonds legally right now, without a single steam chamber or fumigation tank anywhere in the process. And here's the kicker for your own kitchen. If you want to try sprouting almonds yourself, this is exactly the kind of source the kitchen test earlier in this video was built to help you find. Reviewers keep using the same word, alive. People say these almonds taste noticeably different from anything at a grocery store, greener and creamier because they are, in the most literal sense, a different product sold by a family who can tell you exactly which tree in their orchard it came from. You'll find Cape Hills Orchard through its website, shipped directly from the farm, generally in the same price range as the premium skip brands on this list. Proof that the honest version of this product was never the expensive fantasy the industry made it sound like, only a smaller scale one. Here's the one thing worth remembering. Raw has no legal definition anywhere in United States food law, which means a chemically fumigated almond and a genuinely living one can sit right next to each other on the same shelf, wearing the identical word and nearly the identical price. The worst brand on this list is Kirkland Signature, the single most purchased bag in all of America, fumigated with a chemical that 2 other major food systems around the world weren't approved for this exact use. The best is Cape Hills Orchard, a family farm that solved the actual safety problem without needing the shortcut at all, only by changing where their almonds land during harvest. Here's your one job for the next grocery run. If the country of origin says anything other than Spain or Italy, assume it's been pasteurized, no matter what the front of the bag claims or how reassuring the packaging looks. Next week, we're opening up something that's sitting in almost every refrigerator in the country. And what we found in the ingredient list is going to change how you shop for it. It's a product most of us have never once thought to question. Drop the almond brand you still trust in the comments. We're building the list together, one honest label at a time. Hit subscribe if this changed how you shop today. We'll see you in the next aisle.